Right, well, just 10 o'clock, everybody. We will make a start. I welcome those who are on screen. I think I saw Mary Wren from our external auditors. Hello, Mary.
Good morning, everyone.
Jane Cooper. Hello.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning and welcome. And welcome to those here today. Thank you. Right. We shall have apologies for absence, A, and notification of substitutes, B, apologies for absence.
We've received an apology from Councillor Simon Harris, and Councillor Claire Wild is substituting for him.
Thank you. That was B, notification of substitutes. I also welcome Andrew Sherrington, who is joining us as an observer. He's very welcome in that room. Disclosable pecuniary interest. As ever, I have to read this. Members are reminded that they must declare their disclosable pecuniary interest and other registrable or non-registered interests in any matter being considered at the meeting, as set out in Appendix B of the Members' Code of Conduct, and consider if they should leave the room prior to the item being considered. Further advice can be sought from the monitoring office in advance of the meeting. Are there any disclosable pecuniary? There being none notified or disclosed, we shall move on. Right, we've got two sets of minutes, meetings of the previous meeting, the main meeting held on the 22nd of February, and that on the 9th of May, Council Day, just for the purpose of the Chairman and Vice. Those minutes are now before you. Would somebody move them as a true and correct record? No.
I was substituting it for Council for Simon. Wasn't I?
Yes, it won't, but you weren't here on the 22nd.
Oh, no, okay, sorry.
Thank you very much, Roger and Nigel. Opposed and second, is that all agreed? Thank you. Are there any matters arising from the minutes?
Chairman, there is one. I was going to bring it up later, but I note on page 5, it states there, members requested a risk manager provide a brief update on risk management at the next meeting.
So, what have we put that on the July agenda?
Jane is here to present the strategic risk report, and she's also on the July agenda to do the annual risk report and the strategic risk update there. So I think the July one is covering the points.
Yeah, well, we'll assume it will be on the July agenda.
I will talk about risk in a few minutes, but it does state there in the minutes the next meeting. But okay.
Well, Jane's here to do the next report.
She's here to do the next.
Through you, Chairman, it does say members requested a risk manager provide a brief update on risk management, not strategic risk management, on risk management. And it's very important to me, the difference.
Well, we'll go on to the as long as the report comes through to this committee, I think that will satisfy the requirements. And I can assure you that we're all aware of the difference between ordinary risks and strategic. Right. Have we any public questions?
No.
No public questions. Have we any member questions?
No.
Questions. Right. Well, this is where Jane comes on. I think we should be finished in time to get soon for the clock here. That's the length of your report. Right. Second line assurance, strategic risks update. Jane Cooper will report risk and business concentration. Jane, you're on.
Thank you very much, Chair. So the strategic risk report, which is being presented to Audit Committee today, sets out the position on the strategic risks following the December 2023 review. The strategic risks are reviewed and reported on a biannual basis, and in between, the executive management team review individual strategic risks on a rolling programme. The operational risk review takes place first to enable us to feed any emerging themes up to executive directors as part of the strategic risk review for consideration as a strategic risk. There's a bottom-up approach as well. Some risks on the strategic risk register currently on the list that is within the report are as a result of operational risk reviews and issues being escalated, such as the health and wellbeing of staff, the recruitment, retention and succession planning, and also the impact of extreme pressures upon partners. As at the December review, we had 11 strategic risks, and during the review, some modifications were made to our strategic risk exposure, with 2 risks being redefined to more clearly articulate what we are mitigating. Also, 2 new risks were added, one being impact of extreme pressures upon partners, which includes social care, health and criminal justice system. And this was added in response to the pressures upon partners within the system and how this impacts on Shropshire Council through increased expectation, demand, need and complexity. This also impacts on us from a workforce perspective, as any delays in diagnosis and treatments for our employees as a result of any pressures within the NHS results in longer recovery time and also returning to work. That's also linked through to the wellbeing of the workforce strategic risk. The second new risk was in relation to impact of increased waiting lists in relation to deprivation of liberty, occupational therapy and sensory impairment, which could impact and result in failure to meet statutory requirements. With all risks, whether they be strategic, operational or project risks, as part of review, some risks may be archived or closed if they have been mitigated sufficiently. However, risks are not deleted, they are just archived, and if it is felt that the list needs to be reinstated, then this obviously takes place. As part of the last review in December of the strategic risks, the safeguarding children's risk was reinstated to address actions required by Ofsted. Audit Committee can at any time elect to have a more detailed examination of any of the strategic risks by inviting the relevant Executive Director as risk owner or lead assistant director to a committee meeting to discuss any of their risks in more detail. We are currently coming to the end of the June 2024 strategic risk review, and a report will be provided to Audit Committee on the status of our current strategic risk exposure in September, including all changes that have occurred during the recurrent review. And that concludes the delivery of that report. Thank you, Chair.
Right, thank you very much. The report is before us. Questions? Right. Roger.
Thank you, Chairman. In the report, it's 4.1. It refers to the authority as an opportunity risk management strategy. I've actually looked at printed out some parts of it, and it mentions the framework that gives 6 points, and then it does the approach, and it also lists the review reporting opportunities and risks, and also mentions within it recording, and then roles and responsibilities, the Audit Committee. In this report, identified can either be operational, project or strategic. This is only strategic. Where are the operational and project? If one looks at the opportunity risk management, it says anything on the impact above 4, risk acceptance is above the risk acceptance level. If one looks at the strategic report, it shows that the inability to set a balanced budget for a given year is a 4.4. So it's above the risk acceptance level. I would like to know what is happening about that to try and reduce it where we are. And then if one looks on page 15 or 3 of this report, it says the inability to contain overall committed expenditure within the current available resources within this financial year, which is a 3.5. Which is 15, redefine both the ones I refer to. The risk is and does appear in the annual governance statement, and I will come back to it there because some of the risks are expanded upon there, but I would like a report on what that actually means, why it's been redefined, where the authority is, where does the authority expect to be. It is important looking at the precarious nature of the finances, which are highlighted in the financial outturn report later on in this meeting, and has also been reported via exempt reports to the audit committee, which I'm not allowed to talk about, but they did identify there some risks that the authority has been, and they are being redefined, but they do not appear anywhere in this report or any other report before us today.
Can you answer that, Jane, or shall we?
I can answer parts of that, Chair. So the first part of that, Councillor Evans, was regarding where the project and operational risks are reported to Audit Committee. We come to you with a strategic risk, specifically a strategic risk report twice a year following the reviews. The operational and project risks will be reported to you as part of the annual report in July, which will give an overview of the whole of the risk management process, as you've alluded to earlier, and also what the project and operational risk exposure is currently looking like. So that will be coming to Audit Committee in July around project and operational risks. It will also give you an overview of where we are following the current strategic risk review that's currently underway. So you get an update on the strategic risk and you get more detail about the project and operational risks as part of that annual review. In relation to the two finance risks that were redefined, they were decided that they needed to be redefined so that we could manage the impact of those risks slightly differently. So one was around managing the budget within the current financial year, and the other one was managing the budget sustainably through the period of the medium-term financial strategy. So those were the reasons why they were separated and slightly redefined so that we could clearly articulate what we were managing within those two areas. The risk acceptance level, with that means that when we reach that threshold, we spend more time and more concentrated effort in mitigating our risks more robustly, because they're those higher level risks. So that's the reason why we set a risk tolerance level, not that we won't tolerate risks above that, but just that we have higher level of input into the management and assurance levels around those levels of risk. Don't know whether James wants to add any further detail around the finance ones specifically, or whether that'll be coming up further on in the agenda.
If I can, Chair, just briefly, really, just to confirm what Jane said, we constantly keep the strategic risks under review. At the time this review was undertaken, which was as at the December 23 refresh, we identified that it would be better to redefine the risks so it was much clearer about the ability to stay within our budget in a particular year. So that had become more of a clear and present risk that we need to manage. And then there was a separate risk around becoming a more sustainable organisation and being able to manage financially over the term of the MTFS. Clearly, the impact over the MTFS is more about that long-term sustainability. The inability to stay within our budget this year is to be considered right now. In terms of the management of those risks, what we did last year was we were producing monthly reviews, monthly monitoring reports in relation to savings delivery, and we were producing the general information on a quarterly basis to the Cabinet and to the Scrutiny Committee around our overall financial position. What we've then done in terms of additional controls, because we've now reviewed that risk, and that will be coming back for the next update. The latest review that we've undertaken has, as part of that, we are now producing periodic monthly period reports, and those are being reported through to Cabinet every month. So we are aware of the risk, and to help manage it, we are producing more information and getting that into the public domain more often, given the risk that we're trying to manage.
Thank you, Jane. Well, I think that's a pretty comprehensive answer, and no doubt we'll have another bite of the cherry later on July the 16th.
Can I
Sorry, Claire.
After Claire, can I come back?
All right.
Yeah, okay, so get my mic on. So, first time at this committee. So I'm surprised Roger didn't ask a question about the highest risk, which is the failure to protect from and manage the impact of cyber attacks, you know, on the ICT system. And in amongst all that, I know that there, I think it's a risk anyway, that some members aren't up to date with their training. And I just wondered how much of a risk that was, and whether actually when you do your recommendations or report, whether you ought to highlight that actually our highest risk is that, you know, the impact of a cyber attack, and that actually people ought to be more up to date with their training. I might be wrong, but anyway, I can answer. Thank you.
Yeah.
Huh?
Off.
Well, I know, but it's still,
Thank you, James, for this respond.
yeah.
Not between them.
So just to briefly respond on that, absolutely it was identified as that highest risk. There's a number of areas. An audit committee have had David Baker come to the committee a few times to talk about the risk. As it stands, we've identified it as a 5.5 as the highest risk,
Yeah.
because the likelihood, we know that we are getting thousands of potential hits on our firewall. I can't remember the number, but it's like thousands a minute. It's ridiculous that they're hitting us. Therefore, the likelihood that one of those will get through is you know, that's going to happen at some point. The question is what the impact of that will be. In terms of trying to minimise that risk, one of the biggest risks in terms of something getting through that firewall is absolutely, as you said, is if a member of staff or a council member clicks on a link on an email, follows something, and then provides that access through. What we've done, we've put in place a process whereby if that training is not kept up to date, then we will actually remove access for those individuals. What that's done is pushed, certainly on the employee side, we're now in the high 90s in terms of meeting that requirement. Effectively, it's 100%, but it's never 100% because you've always got people just started, people who are leaving, people who are on leave, people who are on maternity leave, and those sorts of things. So, although everybody that's using the system is now up to date and has done the training, there will always be that kind of lapse in terms of the technical percentage. With members, we now have that much higher as well. I don't know the latest figure on that, but again, that can reduce that risk significantly. Of course, having done the training doesn't mean the risk goes flat. What it means is that we're at least ensuring people are tasked with understanding what the issues are.
We have had ICT managers here in the past to explain in detail the way in which they try to counter the numerous, well, not numerous, actually have on our IT systems. Roger.
Thank you.
Nigel, I'll bring you in.
Thank you, Chairman. In this operational risk management strategy, which is referred to in 4.1 of the report, it includes a statement, Audit Committee, their responsibility is to ensure that there is a robust and efficient opportunity risk management process in operation across the council. In the strategic risk report here today, it says redefined. Redefined, what does that mean? And in the inability to contain, redefined. Redefined, what does that mean? That does not satisfy, to me, the role and responsibility of the Audit Committee in doing it. I note Councillor Ward's comment about the number one. That's an equal, it's been there for some time, and I understand what the council is doing about that and the methods adopted by the chief executive instructing that members and officers will be not have access to email system without doing the cyber risk training. So that's in hand, but this states it's redefined. There's nothing in this report which says what that means. So I'm sorry, I cannot accept this report because it does not satisfy the criteria and the responsibilities of the Audit Committee in ensuring there is a robust and efficient opportunity risk management. there are numerous cases outside this council in other areas where councils have accepted items and then found later on they should have asked questions about it. I'm asking those questions now. And I also note in the reply to my first question, there was a note about the September meeting of the audit. So I assume that the June update will be reported to the July meeting of this, not 5 months later, as this is the December's risk, which is now reported to us in June. So if there is a June update, I presume the July one will incorporate the latest alterations to all the risks there. I think it might have been a faux pas about mentioning in September.
Sorry, could I just come in there, Chair, just to respond to Councillor Evans' couple of queries there. So where we've got on the strategic risk register about redefined, that means that the previous risk description has been altered and redefined more accurately what it is that we are trying to mitigate. So we will have had a previous risk description very much along the same lines as the one that we've got, but we have made the decision as part of our review process to redefine that risk, which more accurately explains and articulates what it is that we are trying to mitigate. And that is part of the risk management process that we have in place, that we will review each risk, we will redefine and describe it and define it more accurately if we need to. So that is where those two risks have been redefined. That means that we have done a deep dive into those risks and have decided that we need to more clearly articulate the risk description. In relation to the future reporting to Audit Committee, the report that will come to the July meeting is an annual report of all the activity of the team. It will give you a detailed report about the project and operational risk exposure. It will give you an overview of the changes that have taken place during the June 2024 current strategic risk review. However, in September, you will get another detailed strategic risk review report in September, which will be following the June review. So you'll get an overview of the changes that have occurred in the July report, but you'll get a full detailed strategic risk report in September as well.
Thank you very much. Now I'm going to let Nigel come in and then we're going to move on. Yeah, Nigel.
Yes, unfortunately, Chair, it's about the same, the cyber thing. Just going back to what James said, the actual risk is defined as the failure to protect. So whilst I accept there's several thousands attacks and that's the likelihood, or you say that's the likelihood, actually what the risk is the likelihood of it getting through. So are we still saying that at a risk of 5 that it is going to get through? Because here we are 6 months later, or 6 months later, that risk has not been mitigated because we've still got it as a 5. Moving on slightly from that, I can't remember whether the previous definition, although you say it's not been altered, goes on to talk about the manage of the impact of a target attack. So there's two distinct things there. One, that the attacks can get through, and the other one about what we do to actually recover. And that's probably the most important thing. And I do wonder whether those two should be separated, because I think the actual likelihood and impact are slightly different. And that I think there should be an emphasis on, because I'm not sure anybody from IT has come and told us this is what we can do should the attack get through and we lose our system and there's our ability to recover.
Yes.
Okay.
My Chair. So yes, absolutely. So in concept, what you're saying is correct. I'm not going to disagree with that. As the head of automation technology has reported through to Audit Committee, if anybody says that they can protect their system from attack, they're not telling the truth. They're deluding themselves. There will always be things to get through. Again, I'll just remind you, this was back in December, and this was reviewed. At the time, in the last 12 months preceding that, I think we had 2 white hat, I think the term was, attacks that had got through, and they had hit over a weekend, and they'd been picked up. and they were non-malicious. So somebody had got in, systems had got in, but there was nothing actually done on the back of that. So the likelihood of somebody getting through is still high. It's high because we're protecting, literally millions of attacks, but the likelihood of one getting through, we know it's happened. If it's happened, I think that's the definition of likelihood of 5. If it's happened imminently, it's happened after 12 months, it's a 5. That's the way that works. The question, you're absolutely right, is then, okay, so if we assume it's going to get through, what's the impact of that going to be? So what we now have, and have had this in place now for over 12 months, is a separate organisation that are watching our system 24/7. That means that if something gets through and looks to be malicious, ticks the boxes, we will automatically be notified immediately. And there is a rota system for the IT team so that they are onto it. Now, they will then, and they've talked about this, they will then, they've got a series of protocols that they will follow to manage that risk down. However, the nature of this is that while David is an expert in terms of cybersecurity, and the team that are working around that, including the IGG group, which includes Barring and people like Tim Collard that are then on top of any data breaches, while I have complete confidence in them, what David is saying to me is, I don't yet want to drop that impact down because I think there is more that we can do. So we are tactically keeping that at a 25 because we think as an organisation, it needs to be there at the top of that list. Personally, I think we should be moving that impact down now because more and more is becoming in place. But I will take the head of IT's advice, and if he says, I'd rather keep that impact as a 5 because I think there's more we can do, I think that's what we need to do. I think
Yeah, just to follow on from what James has said there, at the June Information Governance Leadership and Oversight Group, which is charged with responsibility over the cybersecurity of the organisation, a cyber response plan has been defined now, and that was agreed at that meeting. So there's a number of parties involved in that, including a risk management from Jane and myself from an information governance perspective. So that then helps us in that scenario where it does happen. We've got a plan as to what we will do. Every single attack is different. We know that. Every single day is different. The way that IT moves so quickly, we have to try and keep on top of that as an organisation. And that's why it's very difficult to mitigate this particular risk. What we can do is we know that we can put in perimeter defences and test those appropriately and have plans in place for when it does go wrong, because invariably it will. And as you know, we need that plan in place, so that plan is in place.
I think, just a second, I'll come back to you and then Kay. I think that in view of what members have, concerns that members have discussed, we better have the IT team here at our next meeting to explain just how we defend the council and what this new body you just mentioned, Barry, is the field of defence, how they actually are going to tackle the job. Yeah. We need a better understanding of the whole way in which the council is protected. And so I said, can we agree to invite the relevant IT people to report to us at our next meeting? Yeah. Everybody happy? I'm still coming back. Right. Let Nigel claim because he wants to presumably amplify what he says. Then I will go to Kate. Kate, who hasn't previously spoken. Nigel.
So I just wanted to link in, which is item 7, appendix C, the action plan update. Item 4, there's 23 recommendations regarding cyber attack. 10 recommendations are still outstanding. There is an assurance as such that they will be dealt with later on this year. I'm glad we've now made that recommendation that somebody's going to come here to our next meeting, because that might push them to make sure that then 10 recommendations are going to be completed.
Thank you, Nigel. Ed.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I was interested in the critical skills shortage. And this is something that's going on everywhere. This isn't related just to Shropshire, and health and social care as well. I think there are some really good initiatives happening within Shropshire Council. In particular, mentioned in the later reports, the apprenticeship scheme, for example, where we're kind of growing our own and we're much more likely to hold on to staff. I did just want to inquire about how the fact that social workers are paid less to work in Shropshire than surrounding areas. And I'm speaking as a social worker who has actually worked for Shropshire Council. Part of my decision to stop working for Shropshire Council was related to the lower pay.
I'm not quite sure how this comes into a risk.
I guess there's a risk to recruitment if we're not paying the same rates, and I'm just wondering how that's been taken into account.
Sorry, we're all a bit baffled by this.
And can I just
All right.
perhaps hopefully help a little bit? So at the next people scrutiny committee, they are taking a paper on the recruitment of social workers, because I think there's been some confusion about a few issues, and also it's going to be very difficult for all the authorities to work together because everyone's in the same boat. So I think probably it'd be better going to that scrutiny committee and asking the questions, Kate.
Yeah, I think
it's too much detail for here.
I can just quickly talk about some of the additional involvement.
that's right.
So just very briefly, recruitment has been identified, as you say, social work is an area, but there are a number of areas across the organisation. So there's work that's being done around the shop window. There's work around the overall employment package. So this can be things like golden handshakes and golden handcuffs as part of that. There are training opportunities. We're putting in place more sophisticated workforce planning so that there's succession planning within it. So that reduces the need for recruitment and pays for retention. If somebody can see a career path to where they're going, that may help in terms of the pay issue. Pay is part of the equation. There will always be examples of other authorities that pay more and other authorities that pay less. When you look at the overall package, it's different what different people want. In terms of the apprentices, we are majoring on that into the Value Apprenticeship Levy. We are utilising that in full every month. We have done for many years now. So apprentices are being brought through with a clear career path, and with those opportunities to continue to work within the areas that we're identifying. Succession planning is really important as part of that. And final bit is we have obviously agency staff coming in social care. So we're looking to bring agency staff within the organisation, which aids in terms of recruitment and or bringing apprentices through. We have an agency contract in place that is being renewed, and there'll be a new model around managing our entire recruitment and retention process from October going forward. There's a lot of work being done in that area. Again, just to remind everybody, this was the review as at December, so quite a bit of time has gone by in that. So that risk, I would imagine the likelihood of that risk starting to come down now because of all the measures that we've got.
Thank you, Jane. Right. Now, the recommendation.
A quick last comment, if I can.
If you can.
With respect to officers, the word "we" has been used extensively. Yes, it has, but we as the audit committee also need to be involved. It is not only operational, it is the audit committee. Because
we are going to be involved.
But if I can, Chairman, in the minutes of the last meeting, it does say that the from good to reasonable and the operational risk register had some had not been updated within the 2023 year. That to me is a big risk. So it's all that which I would hope will be reported to us so that the we can encompass the audit committee. Thank you.
Okay. Right. The recommendation was members are asked to accept the set out in the report. I'm going to propose that members are asked to note the positions set out in the report. So those who can't accept it are covered. Members are asked to note the positions set out in the report. Is that agreed?
No.
Well, I'm going to second Brian. So
thank you. 3 against.
Can it be noted that I voted against it, please?
As far as I'm concerned, I'm quite happy for you voting against it. Would you note that, please? Right. Thank you, Jane. Thank you for very clear review of the situation. And
Thank you very much.
we look forward to hearing your future reports on this matter.
Thank you.
Right. You don't need to. She's in staying anyway. Right. We now move on to agenda item 7, annual governance statement. This looks like you, James, to introduce it.
Okay, Chair, I'll give it a brief introduction. So the annual governance statement and the review of the Code of Corporate Governance is undertaken every year. So this is the AGS for 23-24. So the production of this statement is important because it accompanies the statement of accounts for the council, which are on the agenda later. The AGS itself is signed off by the Chief Executive and the Leader of the Council every year. They have an oversight of that statement. The statement is pulled together by senior officers across the organisation, providing assurance statements through to their Executive Director. The Executive Director then reviews that, summarises that, and identifies any areas of weakness or concern that they think needs to go into, what they feel needs to be put into an action plan. That then is summarised into a single document, which is attached at Appendix A, which is the full annual governance statement for 23-24. So the bit to remember in this is that this is looking back over the last financial year. So there can be, for example, officers who move, who leave, who start, depending on who's there over that period of time, they provide the assurance in that particular area. The Code of Corporate Governance is identified at Appendix B. That is reviewed and considered by internal audit every year. As part of the annual governance statement 23-24, there is an action plan which is at the end of Appendix A. For completeness, there was the action plan for the previous annual governance statement for 23-23. That is included in Appendix C. That's more for information because what we're trying to do is to bring the relevant actions into the action plan that's at the end of Appendix A. The other thing that's changed in relation to that action plan for Appendix A is we've identified where we have a potential governance risk. So we've identified a potential governance risk or potential governance issue. We've identified what that might be. Just to be clear, that doesn't mean that that is happening. It means that there is a risk identified that we feel we need to undertake some activity. We've linked those through to the strategic risks and we've also linked them through to a targeted outcome. So we've got the risk where we'd like to be and the potential governance issue as part of that, and a series of activities that we've then identified to undertake as part of that. So those activities are looking forward into 24-25 and relate to issues that have been identified as part of 23-24. I hope that's clear, but I'm happy to take any questions that any may have.
I found the tenor of this report was that it's really providing lessons looking forward to all that we have to deal with as a council in 24-25. It's the tenor is forward looking, even though the report is right. It is before members. Roger, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I am concerned about certain parts of this report. I can go through it and refer. I've got quite a few points, but I presume it would be going to council anyway. But I can't support it as I read it at present, and it's just to highlight one or two items in it, if I can. On page, I can't find any reference in it about in February we were informed the CQC were going to visit the council. It took place in June, but I would have thought there should have been a report in it say that CQC had notified the council they were coming to look at the part 1 of the Care Act. So I'd have thought that referred to it. On page 43 in E, it says reduction of temporary posts. Now we are back reducing the number of posts. So to say that we've increased it and made it better, the number of posts have now been reduced in the last few weeks. But I'm surprised to have that statement in there. I would have thought it would be better to be taken out. In part F, on page 45, it says services report routinely and regularly through to council committees. Risk registers all have clear governance arrangements. We received exempt reports at the February meeting, which were obvious it had not happened. That was in February 23. So if there's a comment there to say all have clear governance arrangements, we were told certain things in that report, which we expressed great concern about. And at council, I actually stated that it was the worst audit report I'd ever seen. It is mentioned in the minutes because one of the councillors asked that she did not agree with the moving to the exempt session at that meeting. I didn't as well, but I didn't ask for it to be recorded. But I can't accept that. There are other ones as well. And on page 54, in risk 4, it says delivery plans for all spending reductions in 24-25 have been completed. If completed means just a statement, a one-line statement, yes. But in the period 1, which has just been before the cabinet, it stated there that there are quite a few savings which have not yet got plans in place to actually make those savings. I think it's about £14 million was still outstanding, which had not yet been, as far as the finance department agreed, that they were sufficiently advanced for them to be included. So there were 38 million of, I think it was 38 million of the 62, but the others had not been there. So this report is looking forward, as you say, but also some of the facts in it I have great concerns about. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I'm not sure we can really deal with all that today. It sounds to me.
I can quickly run through those if you want to, Chair. I'll be as quick as I can.
Well, if you understand every point, but
Okay, so
may.
well, I can make a response. Councillor may not be happy with my response, but I can make a response to all of those. In terms of CQC, this was looking back on 23-24. In terms of looking back over 24-25, this time next year it will include the CQC review. It is not identified as a clear piece of activity that's outside of business as usual, Ofsted come in, etc. We report on those when they have happened, not the fact that they're going to be coming in next year, you know, corporate peer reviews, etc., etc. We will report the outcomes. We won't. They haven't happened yet. In terms of staffing, again, same point. This was in relation to 23-24. Looking back on that, the financial position has now been clarified around 24-25. We can't retrospectively change where we were in 23-24 part of that. In terms of risk registers, as James points out, we have a robust process in place, and that is audited by internal audit every year, and reasonable assurance was provided against the governance arrangements around the risk registers last year. So again, that's not identified as a significant governance issue. And in terms of delivery plans, I think you answered your own question. So in terms of those delivery plans being in place, as at for 24-25, that is correct. Could we provide enough reliance on all of those plans? And by that I mean, was enough time in place for all of the, for example, financial business partners, HR business partners, to go through all of those delivery plans in time for period 1? No. So although they are in place, they are at different levels, they're reviewed in different ways, and the information from them will be reported through more and more as we get through period 1, period 2, and period 3. By the time we're at period 3, we should have completed all of the reviews of those delivery plans.
Thank you. I think there's better wait to hear what you say at council now that I'll throw on this side. Anybody else? Well, anyone? Okay, shall we agree to accept the annual governance statement. You can see the item 3. We're asked to consider the annual governance statement, to receive the annual governance statement, to note progress made as outlined by Jane on the actions identified. All those in favour? Against?
Can it be noted again, Chairman, please?
Shall we just include that after every item?
Let it go all the way through, Chairman.
Okay, well, okay, Michelle? Don't let him down. Right. We now move to agenda item 8, financial outturn report. James will give his usual comprehensive.
Sorry to disappoint, Chair. In terms of the introduction to this, I was just going to point out that this has been to Transformation and Improvement Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Started June, it's also been to Cabinet. So introductions have been made in relation to this report on 2 occasions. The reason this report comes through to Audit Committee is really because you will be reviewing the statement of accounts that Council have delegated that the Audit Committee is now the body that will review and sign off effectively the statement of accounts every year. Therefore, it is only correct and prudent that at the same committee meeting we take along the action report so that you can see what the final end of year financial position was in terms of the detail around managing our financial position, and then you're able to compare that to the very detailed statement of accounts, which brings in all of the elements in terms of the balance sheet, the income expenditure account, commission reserves, etc., and all the notes associated with that. I'm not going to go through this as a report. That's already been considered as part of scrutiny in Cabinet and will be considered by Council. This is really just so you have a reference point. However, happy to take any questions that anyone has in relation to this document.
Thank you. I think we're all aware that we were in some dire straits at the end of Q3, which turned out to be far less dire, but still disappointing. One spent that we are overspent was only 7.8 million at the end of the year. This, as you be told, has been to Cabinet and will come to Council. Is there anything we need to say that's particularly relevant at this time? Otherwise,
Chairman, I don't think it is going to Council, is it?
No, it was performance management. Transformation.
Scrutiny Committee.
Yeah.
Actually usually goes to Council.
Sorry?
It usually goes through to Council.
Yeah.
The outturn report.
It is going.
It usually goes through to full Council at the end of the year outturn report. I'm changing it on the end of the.
Only comment I will make, Chairman, as it's going to full Council, I've made comments elsewhere, is that the amount of general reserves, and it's noted in the next report as well, the actual general reserves went down by over £30 million during 23-24. I think that's correct, isn't it, James? Without me turning up the appropriate sheet.
It went up and it went down.
Yeah.
You're only talking about the down bit. I mean, we put money in for it to amount.
But there were 30-odd million pounds of general reserves, or over 30 million pounds of general reserves were used in order to reach the balanced budget figure, which has left the general reserves just £1 million up at just over £8 million, which is not a sustainable position for this council. And that's quoted in this report or the following report.
Okay, we note that comment, which we will no doubt make again because it's when the financial outturn does come. Shall we note the financial outturn report then, members? Agree?
Yep. I'm happy.
Thank you. We now move on to the bigger side of the agenda. The draft statement of accounts, item number 9. James, oh no, Ben James. Okay. Sorry?
I'll introduce.
You're stand with us.
No, I'm chair. So I'll introduce it. My deputy is Ben. Reporting to Ben is Cheryl. And reporting to Cheryl, we have Nikki, who's on the call, as well as Cheryl. I believe, Neil Stewart is also joining the meeting as well. So the accounts are pulled together primarily by Cheryl, Nikki, and Neil, different parts of it. Cheryl has the oversight of that, and then myself and Ben kind of do the final sign off of that. A huge amount of work goes into producing accounts every year. We have a separate deadline to produce a draft account by the 31st of May. A number of authorities have not hit that deadline, and the reason for that, which I'll come back to in a moment. Nevertheless, we managed to hit that deadline and produce that draft set of accounts and signed off before the end of May. If you'll see in the document in terms of the executive summary, that table there also shows that the publication of the audited statement of accounts, the statutory deadline was the 30th of September. Auditors have already indicated, as they have indicated to many authorities around the country, that they will be unable to meet that 30th of September deadline. And the provisional timeline they've built in for Shropshire is to produce that audited statement of accounts by the 30th of November, so 2-month delay. It's on the back of that delay that a number of authorities have decided that they will not hit the statutory deadline. However, we took the decision that it's not going to stay like that forever. Eventually, external audit will be in a position where they will be able to meet their deadlines, and therefore, from our point of view, it's helpful to get that work done in the timelines that are required, and deal with it, get that piece of work finished in a timely manner every year. So the report itself is attached at Appendix 1, which is the full detailed draft statement of accounts, which goes on for many pages and covers all of the areas that is required as part of our accounting requirements. At Appendix 2, we then have an analytical review. So this is to aid members. The idea is that within the accounts, any of the major variances that are over £8 million in value or over 10%, which is the variance between the equivalent figure in 22-23 and the figure that's now being reported in 23-24. That is over 8 million, that variance, or over 10%. It's identified and an explanation is given. This is because what tends to happen is that's the area that catches people's eyes when they see a figure changing down, and so there'll be an obvious question kind of results from that. So in providing that analytical review, it provides members with some detail as to what's changed. It is also a very helpful check for the accountants because they then have to explain why that's changed. It means they go back in and effectively double check some of the working within that to ensure they have a full understanding of why things have moved. If they can explain that to their satisfaction, then that means that can be reported rather than reviewed. So as I say, Cheryl and Nikki are certainly here. So if you have any questions, I will defer to their superior technical knowledge around the accounts for an appropriate answer to be given.
Anybody have any questions at this time?
If I can, it's to congratulate the staff on getting it out. It is factual. So yeah, and I congratulate the staff it is the draft, so the auditors will do, and I'll wait to see what Grant Thornton says about it. But I do make note on page 154 where it says the outlook for the council on there, which opens up. It was anticipated that proposals delivered in 23-24 would put the council on a stable financial footing. I recognise where we are, and I think it's recognised in the report where the council is. It is, as it says, not a sustainable position. And it does mention on page 168 the actual movements in reserve. I could do, and also the total general reserves have gone down, but it is a factual statement. It's just comment there, but it is complimentary to the staff for getting this document out before us today.
I think it will be very much appreciated by the staff that made the remarks work, which I think we would all wish to endorse. But thank you for that. Staff. Is there anything else we say? That what we said at council?
Well, this won't be going to council. This goes through to, sorry, Chair, this is signed off by the committee. The delegation is provided by council. The same for council's review.
Right. Is there anything that you wish to have answered? All right. Shall we all agree to accept the draft statement of accounts? It will now become a statement of account rather than a draft statement of account. I think that the decision the staff have made to, that your staff has made to echoing what Roger has said is very beneficial to council's financial reputation. The fact that we are one of the few councils that are prepared to get our accounts done in time, despite all the staff shortages and problems that we have, key financial vote. It is commendable, James. It helps the reputation of this council, the government financial world.
Just say something, Brian. Perhaps if you could add that we unanimously agreed to send our appreciation to the staff, and then there's no doubt that it was unanimous.
Yes, by all means. Well, Roger will propose that we.
I'm proposing.
And I will. You will second, and we then agree that we congratulate Cheryl and the other people, Ben, and those working for you, Cheryl. I mean, I don't think our section 151 officer has much to do with this. It's the you people that have done the hard crap.
I don't deserve any praise in relation to this.
Yeah. You're not going to get it. Right. So, thank you, Cheryl, very much.
Thank you.
Okay. We now move on to item 10. Next meeting of the Audit Committee, 17th of July. Please don't make any arrangements to go to the sewage works then, okay? Because I think that meeting is going to be very, very much longer, particularly with the presentation we're going to have on IT. So 17th of July, the next meeting. Shall we agree to exclude the press and public from the next item? Agree?
Yeah.
We now come to the exempt minutes of the previous meeting held.
Sorry, Brian, when the live stream.
Oh, is it live stream? I did wonder that one.